At the fortress of Camelot, King Uther Pendragon watches from the battlements as spellbound war elephants smash through his outer walls. For centuries, humans and mages lived side by side in peace, until a sorcerer named Mordred rose up with a hatred for the human race and marched an army toward Camelot, the last kingdom still standing against him. Because Mordred has bent a dozen or more of these elephants to his will through dark magic, Camelot's defenses are being crushed from the inside out, and within minutes the outer wall is breached and enemy soldiers are pouring through the gap. Rather than retreat with the rest of his court, Uther hands the crown to his brother Vortigern and tells him to keep it safe no matter what happens. His commander, Sir Bedivere, is left to rally what's left of the mages and soldiers still holding the inner courtyard, while Uther himself does something no one expects. Alone and on horseback, he charges straight into the chaos, leaps onto the back of one of the possessed elephants, and cuts his way inside to reach Mordred directly. The moment Uther grips the sword Excalibur with both hands, its power floods through his entire body, and every fireball Mordred throws at him simply dissolves on contact, unable to touch him, because the sword is actively burning through whatever magic is keeping the sorcerer alive. When Uther finally kills him, the spell over the elephants breaks at once, and the freed animals turn on the very siege towers Mordred built them to destroy. With the invasion broken, Uther makes a decision that surprises his court. There will be no mass executions of the people who fought under Mordred's spell that day. During a memorial for the dead, he declares that the killing is over, though Vortigern, standing beside him, mutters under his breath that it's only over for a little while. Afterward, Vortigern hugs his brother tightly before walking off, and that single muttered line turns out to matter more than anyone at the memorial could have guessed.
That same night, Vortigern sets his plan in motion. In a panic, he takes his wife, Elsa, down to the lake, the hidden place with the bell. She asks what this place is, but he says nothing. Meanwhile, Uther gathers his own wife and young Arthur, tells her that she and their son must leave immediately because a rebellion is about to tear the capital apart, and heads for a boat to escape, unaware that Vortigern is already a step ahead. Down at the lake, Vortigern rings the bell and summons the thing living beneath the water, the same hidden place Elsa had asked about earlier to no answer. Now the answer is horrifying. Vortigern has struck a bargain with this lake-dwelling power. In exchange for immense strength, he must pay it with the blood of someone he loves. Weeping the entire time, he kills Elsa with his own hands to seal the pact.
The deal isn't fully paid off by Elsa's death alone. The creature that rises from the lake finishes the job by striking down Uther's wife as well, right in front of the king. A young Arthur watches his mother die that night, moments before the same shadowy force turns on Uther himself. Realizing he's about to lose the fight, Uther makes one last move to protect his son and his kingdom. He hurls Excalibur skyward and plunges it into solid rock, sacrificing himself so completely that his own body becomes the stone the sword is lodged in. As the bridge beneath them collapses, the sword sinks to the bottom of the sea, and baby Arthur is set adrift on a small boat, alone, with no idea what he's just survived. A few women working in a riverside brothel find the drifting boat and take the child in, raising them as their own from that day forward. 18 years later, Arthur is a grown man, sharp-tongued and unusually skilled in a fight, having spent his whole childhood in that same fighting-heavy neighborhood, while his uncle Vortigern rules Camelot from the throne he stole.
Arthur treats the women who raised him with real affection, works the door at a local training house, and keeps a small money box stuffed with earnings from an ongoing protection racket he runs on the side. Underneath all of that hustle, though, he's haunted by a recurring nightmare of a shadow killing someone he loves, and he wakes from it terrified every single time, unable to explain why a memory he shouldn't even have keeps coming back. Meanwhile, Vortigern has spent nearly 2 decades secretly building a massive tower sealed in dark magical symbols, and the closer that tower gets to completion, the more of Mordred's old power he's able to draw into himself. Its construction becomes the countdown driving the entire back half of the story. Once the tower is finished, Vortigern will be untouchable.
One night, a nobleman and a squad of soldiers raids the brothel hunting an escaped prisoner who fled straight into the building after a stray coin purse gave away his position. Arthur catches the man and hands him over without a second thought, not realizing the prisoner is Goose-Fat Bill, a repeat escapee famous for slipping out of every jail he's ever been thrown into. Rather than becoming an enemy, Bill soon becomes one of Arthur's closest friends and eventually the group's best archer. Around the same time, Arthur's oldest friend, Backlack, bursts in warning him that the Blackleg soldiers, Vortigern's enforcers, are on their way because of a dispute Arthur mediated between a local girl and a group of visiting Vikings. Arthur manages to slip out the back before they arrive, but he doesn't get far. Royal soldiers catch him on the street, check his hand for a mark, and, finding none, sweep him up into a mass conscription that's been quietly happening across the whole country. It's revealed this is exactly what Vortigern has been doing for years, testing every man of a certain age against the mysterious sword that resurfaced when the sea receded, leaving a telltale mark on the hand of anyone who tries and fails. Forced onto a boat crammed with other conscripts and captured Vikings, Arthur is marched to the site where hundreds of men are lined up to attempt the sword one at a time. Growing impatient, watching failure after failure, Arthur jumps the line and walks straight up to it himself. As he reaches out, thunder rolls violently across the sky, dogs nearby start barking and straining at their leashes, and the whole crowd goes silent. When Arthur finally grips the sword with both hands, Excalibur recognizes its true heir for the first time in 18 years, and the surge of power that floods through him is strong enough to knock him unconscious on the spot. Arthur wakes up in a palace cell, where Vortigern reveals that he's tracked down every detail of Arthur's life and knows exactly who his nephew is, the son of Uther Pendragon, alive and grown despite everything Vortigern arranged that night at the lake. Arthur insists there's been a mistake, pointing out that he was raised in a brothel and has no royal bearing whatsoever, but Vortigern isn't interested in his protests. Rather than execute him quietly, Vortigern plans a public trial to paint Arthur as a common criminal, hoping to discredit him in front of a restless population before killing him in view of the whole city. Before that happens, though, a mysterious visitor arrives at Bedivir's hideout, a mage sent by Merlin. Bedivere tells her plainly that he's seen her in his dreams and knows exactly why she's been summoned. At the execution itself, with Vortigern presenting Arthur to the crowd as your future king, purely to mock him, and just as the executioner is about to swing the blade to cut his head, the mage disrupts the ceremony from a distance, using a giant hawk conjured from magic in a wave of energy that turns every horse in the courtyard restless and unmanageable. She then takes control of the massive war dogs and turns them against the soldiers. In the chaos, two rebels cut Arthur loose, grab Excalibur from where it was tossed aside, and hustle him toward the water, along with the mage. After hesitating twice at the edge, Arthur finally jumps in, and the whole group plunges into the river together, vanishing underwater as arrows rain down. The guards stare down at the surface, but can't find a trace of them. Afterward, with Arthur complaining the entire journey about not knowing where they're headed, the mage leads the group to a hidden rebel camp commanded by Bedivere, the same commander who once served under Uther and now leads the resistance against Vortigern. Bedivere has little patience for the reluctant heir Excalibur has handed them and needles Arthur about handing Bill over to the soldiers back at the brothel, which Arthur brushes off since he clearly picked the wrong place to hide his men in the first place.
Arthur wants nothing to do with the rebellion or the crown. He just wants to leave, but every time he tries to hold the sword, the same dark memory floods back, and he flinches away from it, which the mage points out again and again. It isn't the sword rejecting Arthur, it's Arthur rejecting the sword. To force the issue, the group takes Arthur to the Darklands, a lawless, fog-choked island guarded by monstrous creatures and one massive serpent, where the only way to unlock the sword's power is to reach a stone altar at the top of a ruined tower without being killed along the way. Bedivere is completely against sending him there alone, but there's no other option.
Once Arthur survives the crossing, dodging the serpent and the other giant creatures stalking the island, and touches Excalibur to the stone, he finally sees the whole truth of that night 18 years earlier play out in full. It's revealed that the shadowy force who murdered his mother and father wasn't some outside enemy at all. It was Vortigern, who secretly bargained with the very magic his own brother had just destroyed, using human sacrifice to buy power the exact same way he's still doing now. The tower Vortigern is building, it turns out, is a rebuilt version of the same dark tower where he first made that pact, and once it's complete and fully covered in its magical symbols, he'll wield strength on par with Mordred himself. The vision also settles the sword's origin for good. Merlin himself took Excalibur from that ruined tower afterward, forged it into the blade the Pendragon line has carried ever since, and entrusted it to the Lady of the Lake to keep safe until the right heir came along. With that truth settled, Arthur returns from the Darklands ready to fight, and the resistance shifts into open sabotage. They capsize the ferries hauling carved stone to Vortigern's tower, cutting off his construction supply. Soon after, the rebels torch the palace's brandy stores, timed to a delivery that arrives on the 1st of every month, and the fire spreads through half the building while the group watches from a safe distance. Bedivere manages to secure the support of 6 of the 12 old noble families who still command real loyalty across the country, giving the rebellion its first real numbers, even though Arthur privately doubts 6 families will be enough to beat a king with an army. Vortigern, meanwhile, strikes his own deal with a visiting Viking king for extra soldiers, and because the balance of power is entirely in Vortigern's favor during those negotiations, the Viking king has no real choice but to agree. Learning that Vortigern plans to attend a lightly guarded ceremony in Londinium, the rebels scout the city for the perfect vantage point, eventually settling on a rooftop with a clean sightline to the ceremony below. Bill lines up the shot at 175 yards, prompting a round of disbelieving laughter from the others. They check a second building 175 yards further back as a backup, and map out exactly which of the city's 3 exit gates will actually stay open once the alarm sounds, since 2 of them lock down within 2 minutes, and the third involves outrunning blackleg guards stationed at a nearby tavern. On the appointed day, they take their position as the royal procession arrives, and Bill has Vortigern lined up in his sights when a last-second signal comes through to hold fire. It's revealed the man in the procession isn't Vortigern at all. It's a decoy commander named Mercia, sent in his place because Vortigern anticipated exactly this kind of plot. Rather than let the operation go for nothing, Bill kills Mercia anyway, and the entire city locks down within moments, with soldiers hunting rebels through every street and alley. During the escape, blackleg soldiers hunting for Arthur and the others corner the group and search them. The moment their weapons are exposed, the rebels bolt and are forced to fight their way out in the open. Backlack takes a wound in the chaos, and rather than slow everyone down, tells his friends to keep moving without him while he holds off the pursuing guards alone. The rest of the group presses on through the city and eventually reaches a hidden underground passage beneath a local fighting den. But when it comes time for Arthur to escape alone through it, not one of his friends is willing to leave without him. The guards catch up and break down the door, and a full-scale battle erupts inside the den, with the mage using her magic to help even the odds against soldiers who badly outnumber the rebels.
Just as Arthur sees a soldier about to cut the mage's throat, he finally grips Excalibur with both hands and unleashes its power for the first time, cutting down every soldier in the building within moments. A display so overwhelming that ordinary people watching from outside see it happen with their own eyes. Elsewhere in the city, Baclac's young son searches desperately for his father and eventually finds him still moving slowly through the streets, clearly being tracked by a suspicious officer despite his best efforts to blend in.
With the boy's help, the two try to sneak toward the rest of the group, but Vortigern's men, led there by tracking dogs, catch up to them first, arriving at the same modest house where the rebels are hiding. As Vortigern himself walks in personally to confront a supposed commoner's household, Back and the others try desperately to keep up the act that they simply work there, and the tension holds until the moment Vortigern casually cuts off Back's ear looking for information. That's when everyone breaks cover. Arthur grabs Vortigern's own commander as a hostage from behind, while Back shouts for the group to take the boy and run. Rather than let any of them walk away clean, Vortigern kills Back on the spot, though the others manage to grab the boy and vanish by boat regardless. With the uprising spilling into full-blown chaos and soldiers now attacking ordinary civilians in the streets, Arthur starts to believe the sword itself is responsible for every death piling up around him. Early the next morning, alone and in real anguish, he throws Excalibur into the nearest lake and runs off into the forest, only for the Lady of the Lake to catch the blade the instant it sinks and pull Arthur toward her from where he's collapsed nearby.
She tells him plainly that if he refuses the sword, no one else will ever be able to stop his uncle, and that he needs to trust the mage and face Vortigern directly at the tower. Struggling back out of the water afterward, Arthur screams out his frustration, and Excalibur simply reappears in his hand in answer. Earlier, Vortigern had captured one of Arthur's men during a fight and forced Arthur's location out of him. Not long after, Arthur reclaims Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake and tells his group he's going to defeat Vortigern. They return to their hideout, only to find it already burned to the ground by Vortigern's soldiers. Then, a commander arrives under a flag of truce and delivers Vortigern's terms. The mage and the young boy have been captured, and if Arthur surrenders by nightfall, they'll both be released. With no other way forward, Bedivere goes ahead with the sword, tells Vortigern that Arthur is a day away and wants proof the girl and boy are safe first, so Vortigern releases the mage. Bedivere hands over the sword, and Vortigern makes it clear that if Arthur doesn't surrender within one more day, the boy dies.
Before Arthur goes in himself, the mage brews a controlled dose of venom designed to strip away his defenses and surface whatever he's still hiding from, and has a snake deliver the bite, so he'll be running on borrowed time once he reaches Vortigern, buying him only a few hours before it fully takes hold. She tells him it will feel like she's right there with him for those hours. Arthur walks into the castle, and Vortigern presents him to the crowd, ready to have him beheaded right there. Just as the executioner is about to swing, the mage, working from a distance, has a giant eagle drop a massive serpent into the hall. The creature lunges at Vortigern, but he kills it. In that instant, Excalibur is yanked into a stone pillar and sealed away. Before anyone can recover, the mage unleashes a second, even larger serpent that tears through the castle, shaking the whole structure, killing everyone inside, and sending Vortigern fleeing. In the wreckage, Arthur walks to the pillar and pulls Excalibur free again, reclaiming it clean. Desperate and cornered, Vortigern runs to the lake spirit one last time.
This time, he doesn't hesitate. He coldly sacrifices his own daughter to seal the pact for good, choosing raw power over his last living family member. And the final battle spills into open chaos as terrified soldiers throw down their weapons rather than face Arthur directly. The rebels seize the palace grounds almost unopposed, while Arthur, having recovered his sword from where it fell, marches straight for the tower, exactly as the Lady of the Lake instructed him. Facing Vortigern directly at last, Arthur struggles at first, unable to block his uncle's fireballs cleanly and getting knocked briefly unconscious mid-fight. In that moment, a vision of his father urges him not to look away anymore, and Arthur snaps back to his feet with total clarity, easily blocking the next attack Vortigern throws at him.
He tells Vortigern flatly that everything he's become, the years in the brothel, the years on the street, is because of what his uncle did to him, before disarming him completely and driving Excalibur straight through his chest. As Vortigern dies, the tower collapses behind him entirely, its stolen power running out the instant he does. In the aftermath, the same Viking king who once fought against the rebellion kneels before Arthur along with the rest of the surviving soldiers, and Bill turns to him with a simple, "Rise, my king." Arthur is crowned the rightful ruler of Camelot in front of the very people who not long before watched Vortigern try to have him executed as a criminal. Before the celebrations even finish, though, the mage quietly tells Arthur that reclaiming the crown was only ever the first battle he'd have to fight as king, with old enemies, old debts, and a still unpredictable Excalibur all waiting for him down the road.